Welcome back, Chris Wharff, and another Spotlight Hall of Fame interview. As today we touch base with the class of 1972's Mark Burk, and a great honor for you to go in, and a great honor for me to get to talk to you.
Thank you very much. It's a never-ending memories of sports. You do well, and it's just you grow friends and memories forever, and it's a wonderful thing.
You know, you look back, I was a 5th, 6th, 7th grader, and maybe I'm going on a tangent. I probably will a couple times. I remember keeping stats from my dad broadcasting the games. I remember a backfield, and for some reason sticking in my head was you, a guy maybe named Boston, and maybe a guy named Cernus. And I mean, I think it was against Athens. I'm keeping stats, and I had to change pencils 5 times. You guys did so well.
We had speed. Each one of us had speed, and obviously I probably had a little more speed than both Tommy and Mark Boston, but those guys could keep up pretty much with you for 100 yards, and that's pretty much what we did. When one couldn't get 4 yards, the other one got 4 yards, and that's what we used to talk about. Hey guys, all we need is 3 or 4 yards out of this play. And 3 plays later, we got a first down, and that's how we won games.
I wouldn't say this to very many people, but I mean, it's been 50 years since you graduated from high school. That's a hard number to say, but I'm telling you right now, you're sitting here, and I don't know if you can still go out and play, but you don't look bad.
Yeah, well, don't bet me. Just kidding. I tried to run the other day, keeping up with the kids, and was training them and stuff, and my hamstring got a little sore. So I decided, I better not show them my best, and not too much at all, but I enjoy getting out there and playing a little bit. But you got to remember, at any age, you always have to warm up.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, before we look at overall things that you accomplished, talk a little bit about Coach Boner, Coach Anderson's. I know they were a big part of your development.
Yeah, those are two of my mainstays. I mean, we all go through life. We have problems, and when I look back and think of the wonderful times that Coach Boner and Coach Anderson's gave to all of us as athletes. I mean, they were 200% dedicated, and Coach Boner, we played some of the toughest teams in football: Upper Arlington, Zanesville, Newark, Parkersburg. I mean, most of these schools were bigger than us, and I think there maybe have been 1 or 2 schools that maybe just were a little bit bigger. So Coach Boner had his work cut out for him. Same with Coach Anderson's, and I guess the best story that I can remember with Coach Anderson's is when we were going to the state track meet in Columbus. We got pulled over by a state trooper, and he had a voice that you could never forget. And when the trooper pulled him over, that same voice came out because he wanted to let that trooper know that he wanted to get me to Columbus, and so I could run in the state track meet. We did get a ticket, but we ultimately made it to Columbus, where I won on Saturday.
Unbelievable. But, we were sitting here and we were talking about Coach Boner, and we've kind of concentrated on football a little bit. It was actually the track and field that actually gave you some trips around the state and maybe even around the country. I know you represented Ohio in a big meet.
That was LSU meet, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's All-American High School meet, where you specifically had to have a certain time to get there. It's almost like the Olympic trials. I qualified for the Olympic trials, but unfortunately, I think when I grew up, people weren't really into traveling outside the U.S., coming from a small high school and going to wherever the Olympic trials were held, Japan, or,
Right.
It was outside the country. I regret that because I possibly ran 0.03 seconds off the world's record approximately, and that's after I touched the ground and almost fell down. So obviously at the Ohio State Stadium, a tear came out of my eye because I realized that was it.
Yeah.
But it's when nothing's easy, and sometimes winning, it's you don't necessarily want to think about winning as much as you just want to focus on running your race or playing the best game you can play.
talk a little bit about the transition. You go Marietta to WVU, and I know that was the stepping stone to the next level as well.
You're going up against guys, typically when you play, in high school or grade school, you're playing guys maybe no more than 2 years older than you. And when I got to college, I realized that some of these guys have been around for 6 years in college.
Right.
So they're pretty much grown men that you're looking at they're still playing football. And it's what made it worse was I settled in and got ready for practices, the first day, and typically the freshmen and the varsity practice together, but they'll usually practice on one half of the field. And I guess the first scare I got is after the last meeting before the first practice, coaches told us to get ready because we'd be scrimmaging the varsity in a couple of days within starting. So obviously that was a scare because some of them guys look like they, just fresh out of prison, potentially,
They were men, no doubt. So then you go from WVU, we're talking to NFL. I know you had, a big drink of coffee with the Falcons and the Eagles.
Yeah. Things started out well, but it's the difference between high school football and college is professional sports is strictly business. You don't even really kind of sleep with people at the dorm. Sometimes some people you don't even, other than playing with them on team, you're never even around them. When you grow up in high school, not only do you practice together, you probably eat together, you go to each other's house and sleep, but here you're meeting people and you really don't even know what to say to them. The coaches don't tell you quite as much, and sometimes, even if you feel like you're better than maybe say the guy in front of you in professional ball, sometimes it just you don't move up as fast unless you do things that are completely outstanding from the get-go.
It's uphill.
It's an uphill battle. After my injury the first year, which was a hamstring injury, suffered a hit from behind, took some time off, went back to Atlanta, and the coach at that point, Marion Campbell's getting fired, he told me after I got back to Atlanta, he said, I'm going to Philadelphia. You want to go to Philadelphia? And I really was just starting to feel comfortable, going to some of the players' houses and just hanging out with them and them showing me the ropes. And believe it or not, when we got to Philadelphia, we got up underneath Dick Vermeil, and he just wasn't. It was just like a first or second year in the league, and he was still molding the whole program, and it was just more difficult.
Hey, real quick, I can touch on the banquet and everything. I know that you've met Bob Fogel before, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be there, and that's exciting for me to see the two of you together.
Right. I saw Bob Fogel at Coach Anderson's funeral. I think I was just joking with him. I think I said, "Was the wind behind you?"
Yeah, that was flying, wasn't it?
Yeah. The low hurdles.
Right.
I think Bob's got the record.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the second fastest time in the United States when he ran it.
On the warmest day, and the day I felt the best, I still had a hard time getting to it. So maybe it could have been the stopwatches, you think, or maybe the wind blowing.
I don't know. I think it was on concrete.
Downhill possibly too.
Yeah.
Because I just had a hard time with it. But part of the problem is I ran multiple races, and that was one thing about Coach Anderson's is every at the start of every week, I'd always walk in there because depending on the size of the meet, if he wanted to try to have, in the big meets, you could win like 2 or 3 events, and there's points are up there.
Oh, yeah.
So you can win 2 or 3 events and come out on second or third.
Exactly.
But in the smaller meets, he would specialize and try to put me up against guys and take points away from them.
Yeah.
So I didn't know whether I was running the 440, the 220, the
right.
mile relay, whatever.
What about Mark Burk today? I know you got a youngster. You've been helping him. I heard you talk about the kids, and that's where that stretching. Make sure you stretch before you get out and run.
Oh, yeah.
I can just hear you talking to him. But tell us about Mark Burk today.
Well, currently, a newcomer, and right now he's 13. I helped coach the middle school, 6th grade last year. Ultimately, through coaching and just trying to get the best out of them, and without the hollering, because I've been in a lot of them situations where some coaches, they do get emotional, but through my experiences, I found out that, to build rapport with athletes, you got to talk to them like normal human beings and talk to them about what they did and how they're going to resolve it. Ask them if they understand. Next year, he's going to play basketball. Kept him out of football because, I want to develop his speed, and he's getting there now. A lot of kids get into football early and they suffer injuries, and once you suffer a bad enough injury, it's going to diminish your running skills because if you tighten up a muscle, it won't loosen up. I mean, you're never going to get stretched out. So he's got good speed, and I'm looking forward. He averaged 17 points a game last year at 12 years of age.
Okay.
17. That's
right.
pretty good. So he's going to continue on with basketball this year. I'm going to still help out a little bit, but I've got some work to do.
All right.
With my real estate broker's license and picking up another state and getting ready for another test. And I enjoy that because I enjoy people. I met some tremendous people. I mean, you meet I met airplane pilots, surgeons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Give us a run. Last question. Favorite Tiger memory?
That's a good one because there's been so many of them. I'd say probably one of the best was when we beat Parkersburg in Parkersburg. We were down considerably in halftime, and we went in the locker room. We got everything's red. We got people screaming. We were down like 12 to 13, maybe even 2 touchdowns. I mean, they come back and won it by at least about almost
Parkersburg.
At Parkersburg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And needless to say, every car from Ohio got tore up.
Well, that's great stuff. You don't know how much I've enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to the banquet Saturday night. Mark Burk, class of 1972, our guest. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.